I would now like to introduce your moderator for today, Stephen Mayer, editor, South African Instrumentation and Control magazine. Stephen, you now have the floor.
Thanks to Suzanne, who's producing this event for us out of Oregon in the USA. And good afternoon to our audience from the presentation team here in Johannesburg. My name is Stephen Mayer. I'm editor of South African Instrumentation and Control magazine, the organizer of this afternoon's webinar. I also serve on the current SAIMC Council. Looking through the list of people who've joined, I can see we have an audience comprised mainly of SAIMC members this afternoon. So welcome to you all, and also good to see a couple of non-members. Thanks for joining us for this webinar. We've been reporting in our magazine recently about a new energy that enthuses the Society for Automation, Instrumentation, Measurement and Control. And this is the theme for this afternoon. To stay relevant in an automation industry that is changing fast to keep up with modern manufacturing demands, the SAIMC is actively seeking to re-engineer itself, and to do this in a context that ensures ongoing values for members in this new environment. Central to it all is the view of Council that this can only be done efficiently through open communication with members. And this is why we're going to be putting a few poll questions out there during the presentation. Please respond to these as they appear. It's vital that we get your feedback this afternoon. Suzanne already mentioned that there'll be a Q&A session at the end. So, excuse me. So if you log any other questions during the event, the producer will forward those on to us, and we will be taking them during the last 20 minutes of the session. Our presenter this afternoon is Johan Martens. Johan is a professional engineer with many, many years' experience in the industry in an IT and quality management role. He's also serving his second term as president of the SAIMC, so he's well qualified to lead us in this afternoon's presentation. Johan, it's over to you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Please allow me to thank Tech News for setting up this webinar for us. This is a first for us and a special occasion since we are 55 years old this year. We're going to look at a couple of things this afternoon. The order of events are the purpose of the seminar. Then we will give you some feedback as to what happened during 2011. And in 2012, the goals and plans that we have defined, and which will be moderated after we've had this webinar this afternoon. And then I'd like to just discuss what the engine is that drives all these goals, and then the question and answer session afterwards. Now, it is often said that it's not what the SAIMC can do for you, but what you can do for the SAIMC. I just want to state quite categorically that I do not believe in the saying. The SAIMC has been registered as a Section 21 company, and we cannot deliver value to our members. We should not be doing business. But in order for us to provide this value, we need to know what it is that our members want. And the previous targets, goals, and achievements that we will give this now, and the feedback on the future goals. We will be looking at the branding for the SAIMC in the future. I can still remember when I was at university and we went to a classroom, we had to put our ties in our pockets, because if you end up in that classroom without a tie, they would just throw you out. Times have changed since then, and we need to look what this new branding is that we want. And then the SAIMC's engine we will discuss. I see it's time for our first poll. Stephen, over to you, please.
Thanks, Johan. To the audience out there, the poll question should be popping up on your screen. In fact, you should be seeing it already. The question is, what do you believe the greatest benefit that you currently receive from your SAIMC membership? Now, you'll find you will only be able to select one of those, so please select the one that you would rate the highest. Check the box for us, and the results of the poll will be available in about 20 seconds or so. We're going to leave the poll up for a few seconds, so please check the boxes. Once you've done that, could you click on the submit button down in the bottom right-hand corner, and then the producer will put the results up for us. Johan, while we're waiting, it's very important, I guess, for council to know how members perceive the benefit they're getting from their membership.
Yes, we had. I went through some of the history of the SAIMC, and we had previous polls. There were two actually, and they both produced different results. So we can safely assume that the expectations of the members of the SAIMC does not remain the same. So this will not be a once-off that we are busy doing now. We will have to come back every couple of months or years or whatever and just make sure that we are still on track.
I see the producer has closed the poll. We're just waiting for the results. There they are. You should all be able to see how you voted, and it looks like networking with like-minded professionals has come out on top. Johan, is that a surprise for you?
Yes, it is, because when people registered on the website, they also had the opportunity to state what they think what they'd like to see from the SAIMC, and what they said there was that they would like to get technology information updates and things like that. So it looks like we will also have to combine that with networking and carry on with some of the things that we've been doing and improve on some of the technology evenings that we've had so far.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely right. I see it. It's quite a significant percentage of the respondents, 45%, that rate that networking with like-minded individuals. So I guess that's something you'll be feeding back to council after the event. Johan, I think back to you. Shall we continue with the presentation?
Yes. I'd like to give you some feedback on what happened in 2011. One of our goals were to improve communication. This was done by revisiting our website and creating a forum on the website where people can place questions and can receive answers. And we also have a link on LinkedIn as well as on Facebook. So the communication has improved. It took quite a long while. It took nearly 9 months for people to start catching on this new platform that we provided. And then our second goal was to provide value to our members. We kicked off this whole process this year by participating for the first time in many years in the 2011 Process Expo. That proved to be quite beneficial for everybody that was involved. And then we also joined the Automation Federation, which we will talk about more a little later. Discounts on training courses, as well as discounts on professional membership. So they are from our people who are professionals, and they are also members of the SAIMC. It costs them less to join both than just to register. The one that we are particularly proud of is taking our industry to the youth. The council approved the building of a first Lego League trailer last year. It took nearly a year for this thing to be completed, but eventually it was, and it was handed over last month. What is nice about this is when First Lego League heard that we were building this trailer, they donated 10 sets for us, at roughly 10 to 15,000 rand per set. This trailer will now be going to schools who cannot afford these sets, and we can immediately take this competition much wider than it was in the past. We had additional achievements. We became a permanent member of the Industrial Instrumentation Group, also known as the IIG. We became a full member of the Automation Federation and signed a memorandum of understanding with our sister body in Romania. So there were quite a lot of things that we were excited about that came out of 2011 and places us on path for next year. Now, as you can see on the slide, we now need to just make sure that we are planning this 5-year plan of us properly, and that we're taking your comments and feedback into our 5-year plan, and that's why we need your input. So please feel free to participate and send emails afterwards. When we get to the plan for 2012, like I already said, it will be modified depending on the outcome of this webinar, of course. The first one that we will be looking at is education and training. And for this, we've been doing continuing professional development training certification for a while now. That's the CPD accreditation. What this does is it allows professional people who are professional technicians, professional technologists, and professional engineers to remain certificated like that. Then the next one is we are looking at certification of our members in various categories, which we will also talk about a little later. And then the last one is the standardization of job descriptions. Currently, there are so many different job descriptions that it's particularly difficult for employers to know what, if you have a person being called a control engineer, what this person is actually able to do. So if we have a look at the next slide, you will see the training pyramid that we've set up. And we've started right at the bottom from building a foundation right up to fine-tuning. There's a big drive from the government to make sure that we make it possible for everybody to know about our industry and be made aware of it, and also make them interested in it. And we have this is just the diagram on what the different levels are that we will be looking at. At this moment, we've only implemented the first Lego League, and then right at the top, the CPD training for the engineers, technicians, and technologists. The rest is all in planning. What we are planning to do is once we get to the first technology challenge stage, that's for the people from 14 to 18, we will be able to identify people who we can give a bursary to take them further into our industry. So we're looking at from building a foundation right up to fine-tuning the skills. And I see it's time for poll number 2. Stephen, over to you, please.
Thanks, everyone. The second poll question should be up on your screen shortly. The question we're asking this time is, how important is the SAIMC training initiative for you? You've heard Johan talking about how important the upper levels of the SAIMC, particularly council, view training. Now I'd like to get some feedback from all of you. So please, as you did before, check one of those options, and we'll be putting the results up for you shortly. The poll will probably stay open for another 20 seconds or so. I'm going to put the next slide up, and we'll wait for the results of the poll. Johan, the training initiative really kicked off, I think, with the unveiling of the trailer at the last AGM. How is that going?
It's going very well at the moment. They are just busy getting everything ready. When there are trays that go into the trailer, and these trays have host the equipment, and they are currently loading all the equipment onto those trays and into the trailer, so that by the end of April, it will go on its first session.
Yeah, it's a very exciting initiative, and I think it's a great way to get the youth involved. Well, this is an interesting result that's come up here. It seems like 88% of the respondents here rate training as vital to promote our industry. Is that what you're expecting to hear, Johan?
Yes, most definitely. Training are not unique in the world on this whole issue of training. Training is a big problem everywhere in the world, but especially in South Africa. And in South Africa, we've got a huge gap between the people who know how to do this with eyes closed and new people entering the industry who have academic training but no practical experience. And that is causing a lot of problems within South Africa context.
Yeah. Another interesting thing that for me from the results is that 0% of our respondents chose option C, not important at all. So it looks like the thinking is on the right track. Shall we move forward with the presentation?
Yes, please do. The value for the SAIMC members, what is the value that people are looking for? We had a poll on the website when you registered, and if we can move over to the next slide, please, Stephen, we can have a look at what the results were during the registration process.
Okay, Johan, the next slide is up for you.
Unfortunately, a lot of people just registered and did not give comments, so but we still have a huge section here that showed technology update. If we have a look at the previous polls that we had up, it looks like we will have to combine the technology update with social. So the social and technology, which turned out to be 8% during registration, I think is much higher than that then. We'll have to add these two surveys together and make sure that we do not only give technology updates, but also have a social responsibility. Now, the way that we are going to update people with technology is mainly done via technical evenings, putting information about technical evenings on our website, and then, of course, very important, our official newspaper, Tech News. And then we've also become a member of Automation Federation, and a lot of information will be forthcoming from this channel. So then it looks like it's time for poll number 3, please, Stephen.
Yeah, poll number 3 coming up. This time the question is, what certification benefits should the SAIMC be offering its members? I'm just waiting for the producer to put the poll up. While it's happening, okay, the poll is up, so please select your answer. While it's happening, I just want to respond to 2 questions that have come in during the presentation. The first is from Selvin Murrigan, who suggests that our previous poll question was a leading question, as the other 2 options were obviously not important. I guess, Selvin, if you selected that training is vital for our industry, maybe the question isn't so leading, because 88% of people who responded would have agreed with you. To Solly, I'm sorry, we can't make a list of the attendees available to everyone at the moment. The WebEx platform just doesn't deal with that. But there will be a list given to Johan at the end of the seminar, listing all the attendees, and I'm sure he would be willing to make that available. Okay, I'm waiting if the producer can put up the results of our 3rd poll question, please.
While we're waiting for the results of that one, the importance of asking this question is because being registered as a professional engineer, technologist, and so on is not really an indication of what the individual's capabilities are. By narrowing the certifications, we can identify people who are skilled in much more detail. This is also a huge opportunity for employers to understand what their employees' capabilities are, and it brings a certain professional status to those people who are recognized for their special skills.
Johan, I see the results of the 3rd poll are up, and what came out tops is 45% of the respondents believe that certification is necessary. I guess you probably will review these poll questions maybe in an article or on the SAIMC website after the event at some stage?
Most definitely, Stephen. We will give you feedback for everybody on the website so that they can go and have a look there. The interesting thing here is that about more than 80 people are saying that everybody is saying that certification is important. There's nobody that said no certification is necessary, and which leads us to what type of certification is required. The one issue that we will be looking at very closely is by these certifications, especially certifications that are happening from abroad, are extremely expensive. If there's any way that we can implement those certifications in South Africa so that people can obtain these certifications without spending an arm and a leg for it, will be our preferred method. If that doesn't happen and we cannot make it achievable for our people, we will have to look at doing a separate certification. That is, however, not our first choice.
Great. I've put the next slide up for you, Hun, so I think we'll continue with the presentation.
Yes, thank you, Stephen. We are looking at the SAIMC brand. This brand is, as you heard in the beginning, is 55 years old. And maybe it's time to review it and see whether we are still satisfying all the requirements. Stephen, I see that we've got another poll coming up. Over to you.
Right. This is the million-dollar question for the afternoon because it's really going to set the direction for how the SAIMC brands itself going into the future. We have only given two options, and I understand that there are a number of different options that we could have given you. But I think when Johan and I discussed it, what we were really trying to get a feel for was, should we stick with an old school and traditional approach, or should this really be branded in a more hip and happening way, incorporating social networking, LinkedIn, and all of the other modern communication tools? So please, this is vital that we get your feedback. The poll is up on the screen. We'll leave it up for a few more seconds, and then our producer will put up the results. Johan, would you like to elaborate a bit more on what I just said about these two schools of thought, old school and traditional, and versus hip and happening?
Yes, Stephen, there are so many young people entering this industry that we need to review our values and the way that we behave. I was at a training session in Sasolburg the other day, and it was held by Nico Marnewek, it was actually in Van der Bijl Park, and I was excited to see the quality of people entering our industry, not just men, but women as well, and people from all sides of our rainbow nation. So we are really getting cream of the crop into our industry.
Okay, I think the audience is agreeing with you, Hun. I see 86% of people have taken or voted for the hip and happening option. So I'm sure you'll be taking that away and thinking about it. On with the presentation.
Yeah, maybe hip and happening with a tie to satisfy everybody.
Yeah.
The results of this poll will now be fed to our Public Relations and Innovations Committee meetings for actioning, and you will also get feedback from that on our website. Then we have to review our constitution as well. We have registered as a Section 121 company, and our constitution does not reflect that. And it's not just that, but some of the feedback we're receiving today is also going to end up changing our constitution. Then here's a very interesting one. It's reviewing our website. There are a lot of changes that happened in industry in the last 55 years, and the website is a very important one. But then with the coming of all these new technologies like Facebook and those, it has just become very important for us to make sure that we have a website out there that the hip and happening people will be quite happy and comfortable with to join up with. And I would like to just discuss the results that we had during the registration process on the next slide, please, Stephen, where we also had a website survey on, and we asked how good or how bad is our website. 50% no comments, as you can see, and there were 9% people that said it was poor, some that said it was very good, but however, we recognize that there are things that need to be improved, and a lot of work has already gone into this. We will update you on the progress and make sure that we cater for the hip and happening technologists and technicians and engineers out there. The last one is to grow our membership, and the question, of course, is why grow our membership? It's not just a numbers game, but representing you gives you the mouthpiece to address issues that you alone will not be able to. The registration and identification of engineering work and changing legislations are two examples. I'm sure that you've heard in some of our technology evenings that there's legislation coming up to make sure that all professional people are registered. That is very important for not just for us, but for the whole industry. But once that registration takes place, it is extremely important that we make sure that our views are heard out there. And how are we going to drive all of this? Well, we've got an education and training committee. This is headed up by Soli Mabetsela, and that team handles all training activities and certification. Then we've got the innovations committee, headed up by Vinesh Maharaj. That is for planning our future. And as you know, a lot of these things will, of course, end up in the innovations committee. Then the finance committee, headed up by Johan van Jaarsveld, ensures financial viability. We've got a membership committee, headed up by Johan van Jaarsveld, the rating of new members and upgrading existing members. And then we've got a very interesting one, the branch awards committee, headed up by Vivian McFadden. He handles all the branch of the year criteria. And to make the branch of the year is not just a prestige that we give to the branch that wins, but what happened last year, and it will happen more this year, is that all these targets that we're setting up to do, we are going to put that into our branch of the year scoring scheme so that we can make sure that every branch drives the goals that you have given us today to have a look at. The Public Relations Committee then is headed up by Vinesh Maharaj, and the website falls under those. You'll see on our website forum that all these committees are represented there. And if any one of you feel that you've got something to contribute or you can help us with that, please log in there and see, let us have your assistance. It will help us a lot. And thanks, Stephen. This brings us to the end of our presentation, and over to you.
Okay, Johan. It seems like there's exciting times ahead for the SAIMC, judging by the feedback that you got this afternoon. I think it's time for us to move on to the Q&A section now. Quite a number of questions have come through, so we'll probably spend about 20 minutes on this portion before we close off. I'm just going to take a couple of them which refer to people wanting to know how many attendees we have this afternoon. I can tell you that it's been fluctuating a little bit as people log on and some maybe log off for whatever reason. To answer the question of how many attendees we have, we'll have to wait for the feedback, but I can tell you that currently we have 40 participants on the webinar. So quite a good number. I think it's about 50% of those that registered have actually joined us this afternoon. Then, Johan, I have a question here that's going to put you on the spot a little bit. It doesn't concern anything you've discussed this afternoon, but I think it's important. Somebody considered it of enough importance to put to us. How much cash does the SAIMC currently have in the bank, and what does it plan to spend it on? Bursaries, scholarships, etc.
Can I say not enough? No, that's not. No, the previous council throughout the years have collected quite a handsome amount of money, and that money needs now to be put to use and put to work. That is why this past year we have made sure that we are starting to give back to the industry, because we are a Section 21 company after all. Our goal is not to collect as much money as possible, but to work for the SAIMC. And this is why I also said I do not believe the statement that is made that it's not what the SAIMC can do for you. The SAIMC can do a lot for you. And one of those things that we will be looking at spending it on is a bursary scheme. and more things like the first Lego League trailer. Now, we budgeted 100,000 Rand for this trailer. Fortunately or unfortunately, we only spent a third of it on that, because First Lego League decided that it's such a good cause that they gave us all the equipment that we needed. If we go back to the Education and Training Committee slide, you will see that there's a lot of training and more First Lego League type initiatives that we have to start. And one of those, of course, is also the training of our members that are already in industry. We are looking at ways that we can certify them, work out the certification program, and make this a huge status thing within the industry, to have people that are very well equipped, certificated in the right categories. And this is going to cost us a lot of money. Now, we cannot just give this money for bursaries, because a bursary is something that you give and you don't get money back again. So we need to invest it in some way that we will be able to give bursary every year. And for that, we want to thank our patron members who are contributing towards us being able to be in the situation that we are in now.
Johan, that sounds like a very complete answer, and I'm sure you'll be saying more about how the SAIMC intends to spend its money going forward. I'd like to take another question now, which the question is, when are we going to have an electronic magazine? And to the person who asked that, I'm putting up both my and Johan contact email addresses now. The answer to your question, I think, is that SA Instrumentation and Control already has an electronic form of its magazine, and as the official journal of the SAIMC, that is already available. Johan, can I put it to you? When will the SAIMC itself, or maybe I should just rephrase, does the SAIMC intend to produce an electronic magazine in the future, or are you going to do everything through the website?
We will be doing our communication via the website and via Tech News. We do not envisage having our own magazine, because we see Tech News as our own magazine.
Great. Here's an interesting question, and I'm going to, just for the purposes of argument, ask Johan to go a little bit further than just answering here. The question is it possible to give certificates of attendance to all attendees just to encourage them and to give them recognition? Johan, I think that could go a bit broader, because in the future you might be allocating CPD points for a presentation like this.
Yes, most definitely. We will be able to provide 0.1 CPD point for every hour, and this webinar definitely qualifies as one of those.
Great. Next question. Is there a list being generated of which key industry companies the President will be visiting this year, and in which areas?
That is a very good question, and we will be discussing this at our next council meeting. We had a discussion last year already, but we have not taken it further. We want to go and visit all our patron members and also our branches and our sub-branches. We want to communicate with industry. There are a lot of legal as well as other things that came up that will influence the industry, and we are looking at ways of communicating to them. Last year we had all our patron members and discussed the legal requirements with them for the professional registration. We tend to expand that this year to take it into industry. We do not have a list yet, and we will depend very heavily on our branches to provide us with that list. And it will also be one of their goals this year to make sure that the SAIMC has the opportunity to go and visit all these industries.
Thanks for that, Johan. The next question is a suggestion from one of the attendees, and the suggestion is that the instrumentation fraternity requires a code of ethics and conduct, like PMI. Any thoughts?
That is also a very good question. What we have done last year is to provide compliance guidelines. Now, we will have to take it the next step, like the question stated, and we will have to produce that this year as well.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Johan. And here's another question just come in. Are there plans to use this webinar format to share technology updates, etc., in the future?
A webinar like this is an extremely handy tool, but it's also a little bit impersonal in that there's not the possibility to have social interaction with each other. So we will most definitely make use of webinars, but we will also make use of our technical evenings where we will give feedback on technology.
Great. I see we still have a little bit of time left for Q&A, so I'm going to take a couple more questions. We've heard a lot this afternoon about the goals for 2012, but not much about how Council is going to measure itself against these. How are you going to set the KPIs?
Council meetings have taken a serious turn during the first meeting of this year. Last year, the whole SAIMC was driven by one or two people. But during the meeting this year, various people took responsibility for driving this Section 21 company. The KPIs will be defined and put on our internet where everybody can see the progress.
Great, thank you. Let's take a couple more. Here's an interesting one. There are no standardized job descriptions within the automation industry. Is this something SAIMC plans to address in the future?
The SAIMC has joined forces with the Automation Federation, who has already defined 6 job descriptions in this industry. We have started 2 months ago to introduce them in Tech News, and we will be making employers as well as employees aware of these job descriptions and fill the gaps where they are identified, because we can see that these 6 job descriptions, they do not cater for the whole of industry.
Great. I think we're going to take 2 or 3 more questions. I see we still have about 10 minutes. Here's an interesting one that relates back to your training and the feedback we got on the importance of training. The question is obviously from someone in a managerial position. As a plant manager, I can find good people who are qualified academically, but it's almost impossible to get people with practical experience as well. What is the SAIMC planning to do about this?
We have looked at various options, including a SAIMC finishing school. As a matter of fact, that questionnaire is still going out. At the moment, we are seriously looking at various certifications, whereby the SAIMC plans to test individuals, giving them certifications that will give you, as a plant manager, a very good idea of what this person is capable of and where they will still need to develop. And then, of course, we still need to enter discussions with our patron members to see how we can get these people the experience that they require.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. At Instrumentation and Control, we sponsored, together with Yokogawa, a student through her through the Yokogawa training program, and currently this person who has now finished her training and extremely practically competent is unable to find a job. For the person who asked this question, we have spoken about her in the latest issue of Instrumentation and Control magazine. So if you get a hold of a copy of that, you will find her details as well as her CV. Right. I think we're going to take one more question for Johan, and that question relates to the branches. Thank you for whoever submitted this. These ideas are all great, but how are you going to ensure that they filter down to the branches, which are the forums where I have most of my interaction with SAIMC?
Since last year, we've decided to bring the branch chairman to each council meeting. This made a huge difference last year, and we plan to do the same this year. It brings about much more cost because we have to fly the people in, but that is the way that we'll have to handle that. We have not flown in people from Zambia, but we will have to look at that as well. The other thing that was quite a concern to me on not really the branches itself, but the people who fall outside of branches. And for those people, there are actually two categories. The one is out of town, which means that you most probably sit in Pietermaritzburg and the closest branch is Durban. So you can't really drive out of Pietermaritzburg to go to Durban for a meeting. So we've created an out-of-town group on our website. For the people who sit in Dubai and places like and Australia and places like that, we've created an overseas for a group on the forum, and we are looking for people that can run with that. For us, we approved last meeting at council that we will be looking at a chairman for each one of those two branches, which are not really branches, but they virtual branches. So we are looking for people at the moment, and we will have a voting on the website. So look out for that, and you can choose a chairman to handle those two. The out of town are so we could even extend that further to have one in every province. So it's not necessary that we will only have one. So please look out for that, and then we can look after your interest better as well.
Thank you, Johan. One final question has come through. I know I said we were done, but I'm going to take this one because it really, I think, is one that you'll enjoy answering and you'll also find important, Johan. How much support does the SAIMC get from industry with regard to standardizing the job description?
We have joined the Automation Federation last month, so we have not really started putting this out to industry. But I can tell you that the Industrial Instrumentation Group is going out on a salary survey, and they requested me to send them these 6 job descriptions to see if they can use that as a way to understand what the different categories of people are being paid. We will have a huge drive for this in the next 2-3 years to make sure that everybody understands the necessity for something like this, as well as explain to them what it is all about.
Great. Okay, I think that's all the questions that we have time for. Our time is almost up, so I need to conclude this presentation. From the studio team, we'd like to thank everybody who worked behind the scenes to put this thing together, and particularly to the Tech News IT department for all the enthusiasm and help they gave us. It's been great, guys. It's much appreciated. Then our producer, Suzanne Wheatley in Oregon. It's probably kind of just about dawn there by now, so thanks for your early start. And then to everybody who attended this afternoon, we had very, very few people drop off the webinar. I see we still have 38 people listening. To all of you, it's been great hosting you, and I think with that we'll close the webinar. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. You may now disconnect your lines. Thank you and have a wonderful day.